there is a moment almost every person has lived through where you could feel yourself shrinking, texting back too fast, agreeing too easily, staying too long, tolerating what you swore you never would, bending yourself into uncomfortable shapes just to keep access to someone who was giving you less and less. And the harder you tried, the less it seemed to matter. That voice in the back of your mind kept asking, "Why does this get worse the more I give?" That voice was asking exactly the right question, and the answer, the one the ancient Stoics understood 2,000 years before modern psychology gave it a name, is what this entire video is about. The person who is genuinely willing to walk away is almost universally more respected, more compelling, and more deeply attractive than the person who stays at any cost. Not as a tactic, not as a game, as a natural expression of self-respect. And that is what we are building today. We are breaking this down across 10 sections. Each one builds on the last. By the end, you will not just understand this concept intellectually. You will see a clear, practical path to becoming the kind of person who walks away, not because they are playing a game, but because they have built an inner life so full and so grounded that anything less than genuine respect simply does not fit inside it. If you are new, we put out content like this every week for people who are serious about building an unshakable inner life. Let's get into it. Most people, when they think about walking away, focus entirely on the message it sends to the other person. Will it make them miss me? Will it shift the dynamic? Those things sometimes happen, but they are not why walking away changes everything. The primary reason is more intimate than that. Walking away communicates something to you. It is the moment you take your own values off the shelf where they have been gathering dust and actually live them out loud. It is an act of integrity, of choosing yourself, and that act changes how you carry yourself in a way that every person around you can feel, even if they cannot name it. The Stoics had a concept for this they called autarkia, self-sufficiency, not coldness, not emotional distance. The genuine practiced completeness of a person who does not need another's approval to feel whole. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca. These were warm, deeply relational men. But their hearts were so full of their own values and purpose that no single person's withdrawal of approval could create in them the desperate, clinging quality that destroys attraction. They could love freely because they did not need love to function, and that quality, being with someone because you choose to be, not because you need to be, is one of the most magnetic things a human being can offer. What staying when you shouldn't communicates is equally important and rarely examined honestly. When you remain in a dynamic that consistently violates your standards, you are not communicating love or patience. You are communicating, at a level far deeper than words, that your limits are negotiable. People register this, not always consciously, but they register it, and it does not make them appreciate you more. Self-respect is one of the fundamental signals the human mind uses to evaluate how to treat someone. The way you treat yourself is the loudest instruction you ever give the world about how to treat you. Comment, "I choose myself first," below if you finally realized your standards aren't the problem. Settling for less than you deserve is. If there is one Stoic insight with the most direct application to attraction, it is this. Neediness is not a symptom of loving too much. It is a symptom of valuing yourself too little. And it is one of the most reliably repellent qualities a person can project, regardless of every other positive attribute they possess. You can be brilliant, accomplished, and kind, and if you carry the quiet desperation of someone who needs another person's approval to feel complete, people will feel it before you say a single word. It changes how you hold your body, how quickly you respond, how easily you agree. Neediness performs a version of you that is not quite you, assembled in real time from the guessed preferences of whoever is in front of you. Epictetus taught that the fundamental philosophical error, the source of all anxiety and desperate clinging, is confusing what is yours with what is not. Your judgment, your values, your character, these are yours. The opinions others form of you, whether someone decides to love you or leave you, emphatically not yours. When you place your sense of worth in the second category, you have handed the foundation of your entire inner life to something you cannot control. And the anxiety that results is what the person across from you reads as neediness. They feel that you need something from them, that the interaction is not equal. That behind the charm and effort is a quiet hunger they did not sign up to feed. When you stop needing a specific person to choose you, you stop distorting yourself to be chosen. And when you stop distorting yourself, the person in front of them is finally, fully, actually you. The real, unperformed, unfiltered version of you is almost certainly more compelling than any version ever assembled to please an audience. The Stoics believed the greatest gift you can offer another person is your authentic self, clearly known and honestly expressed, because that is the only self that can actually be loved. Everything else is just a performance, and you cannot be loved for a performance, only appreciated for it. Comment, I don't need you, I choose you, and that's what makes it real below, if you understand the difference between loving from wholeness and clinging from fear. Self-worth gets used so often in modern culture that it has almost lost its meaning, reduced to affirmations in the mirror, a concept you intellectually agree with but aren't sure you actually have. The Stoics had something far more specific and demanding in mind. They were not talking about how you feel about yourself on any given morning. They were talking about something you build through behavior, through the consistent, daily, repeated act of living in alignment with your own values, even when it is difficult, even when it costs you something, even when no one is watching. Stoic self-worth is not a feeling. It is a track record. It is the accumulated evidence gathered across hundreds of small choices that you are a person who keeps their promises to themselves. Marcus Aurelius held himself accountable with extraordinary honesty, not through self-punishment, but through the relentless daily question, did I act in accordance with what I believe is right? Not did people approve of me, not did I succeed, but did I show up as the person I have decided to be? That question, and only that question, is within your control to answer yes to every single day. The Stoics called this arete, excellence of character, and they considered it the only reliable source of genuine flourishing. Wealth, reputation, the love of specific people, these were preferred indifferents. Nice to have, worth pursuing, but not foundations. Only character was truly and permanently yours. Building real self-worth in the Stoic sense begins with one commitment, keeping the promises you make to yourself. Not the big dramatic ones, the small daily ones. The alarm you set, the conversation you said you'd have, the boundary you decided to hold. Every time you keep one of those promises, you deposit something into the account of your self-respect. Every time you break one, you make a withdrawal. Over time, the balance in that account is what people feel when they are in your presence. Not your words about your worth, not your claims. The actual result of how consistently you have treated yourself as someone worth keeping promises to. I keep every promise I make to myself below if you're done waiting for someone else to show you your worth. One of the deepest fears that stops people from holding their standards is the fear that having them will drive people away. That if they stop accommodating, stop overgiving, stop tolerating what they know is wrong, everyone will leave and they will be alone. This fear is understandable. It is also almost entirely backwards. When you raise your standards and hold them consistently, you do lose some people. But the people you lose are specifically the ones who were benefiting from your lack of standards, and the people who remain, revealed and strengthened by your willingness to hold your ground, are the ones who were drawn to you for the right reasons. Standards are not a filter that drives people away from you. They are a filter that drives the wrong people away from you. Seneca wrote about genuine friendship as one of the highest goods available in a human life, and his standard was demanding precisely because he understood its value. He was not interested in connection built around convenience or mutual flattery. He wanted friendship between people of good character who knew each other truly, challenged each other honestly, and chose each other freely, not from need, but from genuine recognition. Applied to relationships, this means you are not trying to attract as many people as possible. You are trying to attract the right people, those capable of recognizing and valuing what you actually are. And those people are specifically drawn to groundedness, standards, and the willingness to walk away. A person who holds their standards within a relationship, who continues to express their genuine needs and limits, who names what is not working and walks away from specific dynamics even when it causes discomfort, is the person whose presence continues to be valued rather than taken for granted. When you consistently fold, you gradually train the people around you to stop taking your preferences seriously, not through malice, but through the simple psychological mechanism of learning what is and is not a real boundary. When everything is negotiable, nothing is respected. When you hold a standard genuinely and consistently, you teach the people in your life to take you seriously. And being taken seriously is the foundation on which real love is built. Comment. The right people don't leave when you have standards. The wrong ones do, below if holding your ground has already shown you who was really in your corner. One of the most common misunderstandings of Stoic philosophy is the idea that detachment means not caring, that the Stoic is someone who has closed themselves off from feeling, from wanting, from the vulnerability of genuine connection. This is the opposite of what the Stoics taught and lived. The Stoic practice of non-attachment is not about caring less. It is about caring differently, with full investment in what is within your control and genuine peace about what is not. You give everything you have to the relationship, to the work, to the person, and then you release the outcome. That combination, maximum effort plus genuine non-attachment to result, is not passivity. It is the most advanced form of engaged action, because it is action completely free of the fear that compromises it. Epictetus described love with extraordinary clarity. The person who loves freely, without the desperate grip of attachment, loves more completely than the person who clings, because they are genuinely present with what is, rather than anxiously managing what might be lost. When you are not terrified of losing someone, you stop monitoring them and start actually being with them. When you are not performing to secure their continued approval, you start genuinely expressing yourself. The entire quality of the connection transforms. What was anxious and managed becomes easy and real, and ease and realness are what people stay for, not for the performance, not for the accommodation, but for the genuine human being who showed up fully and trusted them with that. Walking away, understood through this lens, is not a rejection of love. It is an expression of it, specifically of self-love, which the Stoics considered a prerequisite for loving anyone else well. You cannot give freely from an empty account. You cannot be genuinely present with another person when your own sense of worth is riding on how they respond to you. The willingness to walk away, the genuine grounded knowledge that you will be okay either way, is what allows you to stop performing and start connecting. It is the foundation of every form of real intimacy, not the threat of leaving, the peace of knowing you could. Comment, I love freely because I'm not afraid to lose below. If you've learned that real love only lives where there's real freedom. The Stoics were deeply suspicious of unnecessary speech, not because they were antisocial, but because they understood something most people miss entirely. Every time you over-explain, overshare, or overperform, you are handing people a detailed map of exactly how to manage you. Epictetus had a rule. Before speaking, ask whether what you are about to say is true, necessary, and whether it improves the situation. If the answer to any of those is no, the discipline is silence. In the context of attraction, this discipline has an almost immediate and dramatic effect on how you are perceived. The person who speaks deliberately, who does not rush to fill silences, does not over-justify their choices, does not explain their boundaries, projects a quality of inner depth that is genuinely compelling. There is a specific dynamic this creates in potential connection that most people have never examined. When you stop volunteering information about your fears, your insecurities, your hopes for where this is going, when you are genuinely present and engaged, but not broadcasting your internal state, the person across from you becomes curious. Not because you are being strategic, because mystery is real. Because depth that is not immediately visible is more interesting than depth that is immediately exhausted. The Stoic discipline of silence is not about being withholding or cold. It is about being selective, about reserving your full self for people who have earned it through demonstrated trustworthiness over time, rather than offering it immediately to everyone who shows interest. The other gift of silence is observation. While others are performing and anxious for airtime, the person who listens and watches gathers information that the speaker is giving away freely. You see how people behave when they think they are not being evaluated. You notice the gap between what someone says and what they do. You catch the inconsistency between their stated values and their behavior under pressure. These observations, held patiently and without immediate judgment, give you a picture of who a person actually is that no amount of self-presentation can construct or conceal. The person who sees clearly cannot easily be fooled, and the person who speaks with intention cannot easily be manipulated. Comment, I let my presence speak before my words do below, if you've discovered that the most powerful thing you can do is simply not explain yourself to everyone. Everything in this video rests on one foundational truth. Walking away is only possible when you have somewhere worth walking to. The person who cannot be alone, who finds their own company unbearable, who fills every silence with noise, that person cannot hold a standard that requires being alone, no matter how much they intellectually understand why they should. Seneca wrote about self-companionship not as a metaphor, but as a literal philosophical project, the cultivation of a genuine, nourishing relationship with your own mind and your own presence. This is the work underneath all other work. Because if being alone is intolerable, every compromise you make to avoid it is not a choice. It is a compulsion. The practical prescription the Stoics offered was direct. Spend time deliberately in your own company. Not scrolling, not consuming. Sitting with your own thoughts, examining them, questioning them, understanding them, until the silence becomes comfortable, then familiar, then genuinely enjoyable. This sounds simple and is genuinely difficult in a culture that has weaponized distraction. But the person who has done this work brings something extraordinary to every relationship they enter. The unmistakable quality of a person who is there because they want to be, not because they need to be. That distinction is felt immediately. It is the difference between presence as a gift and presence as a plea. Beyond solitude, the Stoics emphasized the importance of a life that is genuinely yours, built from your own values, your own pursuits, your own sense of purpose. rather than assembled around the presence of another person. When your life has this quality, no one's arrival or departure can constitute an emergency. They are a beautiful addition to a life that is already full, not the source of a life that cannot function without them. That is the specific inner architecture that makes walking away feel like freedom rather than loss. And it is not built in a day. It is built in the daily, quiet, unsexy work of showing up for your own life with the same energy you have been pouring into everyone else's. Comment: I'm building a life so full that no one leaving it can empty it. Below, if you're finally doing the inner work instead of waiting for the right person to complete you. The Stoics kept the awareness of death close, not to be morbid, but to be free. Memento mori, remember that you will die, was not a dark meditation. It was the most clarifying, prioritizing, liberating practice available to a living mind. And in the context of relationships and attraction, it does something that nothing else quite manages. It renders the fear of being alone, the fear of missing out, the fear of what people think of your choices, almost completely weightless. When you hold the reality of your finite life honestly, when you genuinely ask yourself how much of your limited, irreplaceable time you are spending in dynamics that diminish you, the answer almost always demands a change. The manipulation that keeps people in situations beneath their worth almost always depends on one thing: the illusion that you have infinite time to wait for things to get better, infinite chances to be chosen by the right person, infinite capacity to absorb mistreatment while the situation slowly resolves. Memento mori dismantles that illusion completely. Your time is real. Your life is happening now. Not after this relationship improves, not when you finally feel ready, not once the circumstances align. Right now, today, in every dynamic you are choosing to stay in. The awareness of death creates urgency. Not anxious urgency, but the clear, calm urgency of a person who knows their time is finite and has decided to spend it deliberately. Marcus Aurelius returned to this awareness constantly, not with despair, but with gratitude and intention. Confine yourself to the present, not the imagined future where the person changes, not the reconstructed past where things were better. The present, the actual reality of the dynamic as it exists today. Is this how you want to spend the hours of your one life? The Stoics believed that question, asked honestly and regularly, has a way of clarifying choices with extraordinary sharpness. The person who carries memento mori into their relationships stops tolerating what they know is wrong, not dramatically, just quietly, decisively, finally. My time is too valuable to spend it where I'm not valued. Below, if you've stopped pretending you have forever to wait for people to treat you right. Marcus Aurelius wrote about what he called the inner citadel, the inviolable sanctuary of your own mind, your own judgment, your own values, that no external force could enter without your permission. The person who has built a genuine inner citadel does not need approval to feel stable, does not need validation to feel worthy, does not need to be chosen to feel complete. And because they need none of those things, they cannot be destabilized by the withdrawal of any of them. You cannot rattle a person who is entirely at home in themselves, and there is almost nothing more compelling than a person who cannot be rattled. Building the inner citadel is not a dramatic project. It is a daily one. It is the practice of examining your own thoughts before acting on them, returning to your values when external pressure tries to override them, noticing when you are performing versus when you are present, and choosing presence, sitting with uncertainty without immediately reaching for reassurance. None of these are grand gestures. All of them are foundational, because what you are building, one daily practice at a time, is the specific kind of psychological stability that makes neediness structurally impossible, not because you have suppressed the need, but because you have genuinely filled it from within. The person who has built this inner stability walks into every interaction from a completely different place. They are not scanning the room to see how they are being received. They are not monitoring responses for signals about their own worth. They are simply present, curious, warm, engaged, and entirely unbothered by the possibility of not being chosen. That unbotheredness, that genuine, non-performed ease with themselves, is what people feel as magnetic. It is the specific quality that makes someone think, I want to know more about that person. Not because they are playing games, because they are completely, effortlessly, authentically themselves. And in a world of performances, that is almost impossible to look away from. You can't shake someone who is at home in themselves below if you're building the kind of inner peace that no one can take from you. Everything in this video leads to this final understanding. Walking away is not a tactic. It is not a response you calculate when you feel disrespected. It is a way of life, a complete orientation toward yourself and the world that changes not just your relationships, but every dimension of how you move. The Stoic who has genuinely internalized this does not walk away